Day.
And I'm Richard Day.
We're both chiropractors.
We've been in practice together for 11 years.
Married for 10.
With 3 beautiful little girls.
We know it's possible to have an exceptional practice that's built around your life.
Because we've done it.
So we've created this podcast,
the Lifestyle Practice Builders Podcast.
We'll interview chiropractors, answer questions, and bring you resources to help build and grow your practice.
So let's get this party started.
Welcome back to Lifestyle Practice Builders Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Haley Day, and today I am being interviewed by Colton Purscell. This is going to be a 2-part interview, so I will put the rest out at the end of the week. We are celebrating Christmas, and I'm not going to rush through editing this podcast, but I am going to get some of it to you today. We'll get the rest out at the end of the week, and I have another interview next week with an accountant that specializes in helping chiropractors. So really excited about all of these interviews and hope you guys enjoy the podcast. Colton is from Fort Worth, Texas. He has an undergrad degree from TCU in kinesiology, decided to do chiropractic, and that's where he's at now. So let's listen in to our interview, and hopefully this helps answer some questions for you if you're looking to start your own practice or you've recently started your own practice. Maybe these are some of the questions that you've also had. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Take care. Have an amazing Christmas with your friends and family. Hey, Colton, thank you so much for coming on and joining us for the podcast today.
Hey, how's it going? Great to finally get together.
Yeah, I can't wait to have our talk here. So go ahead and start by telling us, a little bit about yourself, where you're at in school, what chiropractic school you're at, where you're at, and kind of your plans after graduation.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm Colton Purscell from Fort Worth, Texas. I decided to pull the trigger for Palmer, Florida after doing my own thing for about 1.5 years at post-graduation. I bumped around doing personal training. I started my own basketball club. And then I was just like, I know I have a higher calling than just coaching and training. So I shopped around all the chiropractic schools. I probably looked at all of them and called all of them. And then I ended up at Palmer, Florida. I'm right now a Q8. About to be a Q9. In January, I start student outpatient clinic. So that's really exciting.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's going really well right now. Boards part 1 is over. That was challenging, but we did it.
And then when do you plan on graduating?
Graduating in March 22.
Okay.
And I'm going back to Texas.
Uh-huh. Unless
the laws change, which they're... they took it to the Supreme Court the other day. So just waiting for that deliberation before I really pull the trigger. But that is the plan as of now.
Okay. And how does it work at Palmer? You will do clinic there the whole time, or do you do clinic for that last year and then you'll spend the next spring in a preceptor position?
Correct. So it will be... Not quarter 9, 10, 11, and 12, you're in the outpatient clinic. We have 2 clinics in the Florida campus. And then your last 3 months is your preceptorship. So that for me, I'll start that in January until graduation.
Okay. And you coach basketball. Is that primarily going to be your focus? Is going to be sports, younger players?
Yeah,
older?
I'd like to make my prime focus like youth athletes, like middle school and high school kids. I think that population is underserved health-wise.
Uh-huh.
The kids are either working too hard or not working enough. And when you have, dads or somebody who only played Little League football, being a football coach and expecting these kids to perform, but they don't have an advocate on their side.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a big negative for them, and hopefully I can help kids get further in their sports and school.
I agree. We've certainly seen that in our practice. I know that you work also while you go to school. Can you tell us a little bit about how much you work and what you do?
Right. So since COVID started, I was like, well, now I have a bunch of free time. So I was like, I should probably get a job. So I started coaching at Orange Theory Fitness. If you don't know what Orange Theory is, it's a mix between cardio and weights. You get about 20 minutes on the rower, 20 minutes on the treadmill, 20 minutes on the weight floor. I'm doing about 15, 16 hours a week there. And then with school, that's like 30 plus hours a week. So between studying, school, working out, it's probably 50, sometimes 60 hours a week of actual work.
Yeah. Do you see, and I get this question a lot about working while you're in school. And so that's why I'm putting you on the spot for this.
Yeah.
But I feel like I worked during school too, that I was more conscientious of the time, how I was spending my time. And so actually having a job helped me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Like for me, like I need the structure. Like that's one thing I struggled with during COVID and like going to like doing all these online classes. It's like, most of the classes are pre-recorded, so they want you to just watch them. So it's like, well, I can watch them whenever I want. Mm-hmm. But if I have to go to work and I have to go to the gym and I have to, be ready for this test, if the more structure I have, the more freedom I have.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I think a lot of people will say that too. Like if you can plan out your day and know when you can mess around with your friends or when you need to buckle down, that helps you a lot when it comes to time management.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that's how it was for me. And so I think students like to hear and see how it's working for others. So I appreciate you for sharing.
I do think though that like early on when you first come to school, like if you can, like make sure your school is your top focus. And if you figure out if you have that freedom or discipline to, be able to take the job. Like quarter 1 through 3, like I was really heavy in the books. I probably didn't have time for a job, but once I got that rhythm down, I probably could have started this, a whole year earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. It's a lot of with those foundational elements too. In the beginning, you want to make sure that you really have a good idea about how all of that works because everything's going to build on that. So that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah.
So you have some questions for me as you are starting to plan your transition from student to doctor. So I'm going to let you go ahead and start asking them.
All right. Well, the first question, this one literally woke up in the middle of the night and wrote it down. Where do I get a credit card machine? Like I want to do cash practice as of now.
Okay.
So I feel like that's going to be very important. I'd like to have instant money in the bank versus having to chase the insurance companies. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started out cash. We did end up taking insurance after a couple years. We decided that we had a good foundation for where we were at. And we felt like to us, we were going to add income by adding insurance. And so we've stuck with it. But I think cash practice, whatever you want to do is you're going to make work for you. Right. But credit card machine is very important. And I see this a lot in groups. And I've actually written a blog post about it that you can go back and read. And I'm going to put a page together at lifestylepracticebuilders.com/NCMIC. So we use NCMIC now. We didn't start with them, but we've been using them for probably 7 years now. And I did a comparison, and I think it's on that. It's not on I'll put it on the NCMIC page, but it is definitely in the blog post where I compared if we were using Square to using our rates at NCMIC. And it saved us over $1,000. It would have saved us over $1,000 for a year.
Wow.
So there's definitely considerable savings. What Square does is that they just take a straight percentage.
Right.
When you use another credit card processing company, it differs between the credit cards. And so some might be a little above Square's set price, but most of them are quite a bit below, obviously, if we're able to save $1,000 compared to using Square.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
So, yeah. And we do have a Square, and we do have another processing. We use Stripe, and we use those as backups. So if for some reason,
that's a good call.
Yeah, it's really worked out for us. It was something obviously we didn't have when we needed it. And then we decided, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we had one of these as backup? And we have used them since. We've used both Square and Stripe. So it's definitely nice to have one of those as a backup. So how it works is you typically, when you use NCMIC or another credit card processing company, they do put the funds in your account pretty quick. So you aren't waiting regardless of who you use. And then some are taking their credit card fees daily, and some, I think, take them monthly.
Gotcha.
We've had them take them monthly, so they usually take them at the first of the month. And that depends on how much, of course, that you're charging.
Right.
Those fees are. So we started with another company. One of the things that we didn't like with them was that we could only get out of our contract for about a 30-day period for the year. So after the first year, they changed our rates. So then we were stuck in those rates for the whole second year. And we may have ended up being stuck with them for 3 years, because then we didn't realize when we could get out with them and then plan on, contacting them during that time. So just setting up all those changes didn't actually happen for maybe 2 or 3 years. So what we did then was we took those rates from our first company, and you could do this without even ever signing up with that first company. So you could go to a company, ask them for their rates. You can then take them to another company like NCMIC, and they will negotiate with you better rates than what you bring them. And so you could go to one company, get their rates. And I would recommend, you could go to Costco or your bank and see what they're going to offer you, and then take that to NCMIC. And traditionally, NCMIC is going to beat that and give you better rates. That would be my recommendation.
So,
yes.
So definitely don't just show up, hey, shop around. And
yes, I think shopping around is the idea if you want some better rates. But then also, and I just think NCMIC is a great company. We've worked with so many companies, and their values are similar to ours. We just are really good to our clients, our patients. And I've always felt like NCMIC is fair to their people. The credit card machine you do get free. I think at first you have to sign up for a 2-year agreement for that maybe, but they do not charge you any other crazy fees. And so occasionally you'll see people talk about these crazy or wild fees that they're being charged. Or I've even seen where one said they were signing up with a company and they thought they'd have no credit card fees. And it turned out that company was actually charging the patient's credit cards the fees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you want to make sure, and I think this is with anything, maybe sometimes you'll pay a higher rate, with our you need insurance on your practice. So if someone comes in and gets hurt, and we have that through State Farm. And the reason we use State Farm is not because they're the cheapest, it's because we know they're a good company. And so we utilize that philosophy with a lot of the things we do. And we're very, cost conscious, but at the same time, you want the value to be there.
Quality, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's my take on credit card machines.
Well, when I get an accountant, will they be able to really break down that side of it, or they won't really know until I start making money?
Yeah, they won't really know. I mean, we've never talked with our accountant about our credit card machine. So it's really something that you're going to work on. But I can tell you, if you you get some rates, you shop them to NCMIC, you're going to get a great deal.
Awesome.
And definitely visit that lifestylepracticebuilders.com/NCMIC, and I'll have some contact information.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, well, let's do the next question. X-ray, is it worth it starting out? Especially because I want to do youth athletes. I'm more worried about, I guess, if they break something, but they would just probably go to the emergency room. So I don't really think X-ray is worth it.
No. So X-ray was our largest purchase, and we got funding through NCMIC for it. So we were paying, and it was analog, so it wasn't digital, but we were paying about $450 a month to have X-ray. Just so you know, what it cost to finance something like that. There's a lot to know with X-ray. We actually just took the X-ray out of our current practice. We've actually gotten rid of X-ray out of both practices. We did not utilize it enough. We didn't feel like, and especially where we're at now, the convenience of getting X-rays in an X-ray facility is just so easy, and it's so common for them. Where we're at, it's called diagnostic imaging. Their centers are everywhere, and it's all they do, and they have their processes and their systems down, and just so easy for the patient to go in there, get the X-ray, get the report. We have it all that same day and move forward with care. But I will say that we did use X-ray the most on teen athletes.
Right.
In our current practice, my nieces got X-rayed several times because they're big into soccer. So, but I still think if you have the resources in your area to send them out, I think that's the way I would go, because there's a lot of other costs that you don't consider with X-ray. Mm-hmm. We had to replace the batteries in our X-ray unit. That cost $2,500 to $5,000, I think.
Yeah.
And then also, even with digital, I know you have insurance on it. And then I think those units are only good for a certain amount of time. But that's,
and the build out alone could cost $5,000,
Yeah. And that too. So that was, we spent about $1,400 to make our room in our first office ready for X-ray. So it wasn't too bad. And they did roll that into the financing, I believe. Mm-hmm. But definitely a lot to consider there. And I find it easier to send them out. Typically, you're going to want somebody to read it. We're not experts at reading fingers and ribs and toes and feet. And I think it's always been nice to have that extra set of eyes too, especially with kids when they have their growth plates, and a lot more to consider there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right on that. For website design, did you guys pay a service to do that? Because I know you need to be able to update regularly and post regularly on the website to draw in more interaction.
Yeah.
Should I just sit down find a company that'd be like, hey, teach me how to do this? Or should I just, shop it out?
For us, we made our own website. It was something we were comfortable with. Websites were not like they are now, obviously, but we did keep up with it. I think in our Facebook group, if you search in our Facebook group, Wix, Rich put together a kind of a walkthrough of how to create a website in there.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So I think if it's something that you can do, that the first website can be really easy. I mean, you can have a one-page website where you essentially have all of the information on there. You can have the about you, the conditions you treat, and your contact information. So I think that's really easy nowadays. A lot of websites are just like that. They're kind of a scrolling one-page website. We have since paid people to create the website just because we've found that for us, the cost and time is now is better. And we had a friend that did it. I think we found someone local. We looked at local websites that we really liked for kind of hip places like juice bars, that kind of thing, and looked for who had created their website. And so then we were able to use that person too. And I think it's nice to have that synergy with local businesses, and it's still someone that we are equally supportive of each other.
Right. That's awesome.
So, and we spent about, I would say, anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. I wouldn't want to spend much more than that.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, sweet. What's next? So when I pick a location, like any tips or tricks to picking a location that's more better off than others? Like, you guys work with people all the time that pick different places. So what are your thoughts on the right location?
Yeah. So I think, for one thing, right now, we're really recommending to be an independent contractor. So anywhere you can find an extra office space. I think for us, we've always tried to be as close to our home as possible because we don't like the commute. So that's one thing that we consider when we're kind of looking around for new spaces or for where our clinic would be. So location to your home. And then also location to other businesses. I think, we were in a smaller town in our first practice in Colorado. And so we relied heavily on working from home people and then people who didn't work near there. So we were in kind of a bedroom community, which means all of our patients were either working from home, they were stay-at-home moms, or they would want to come before they drove to their office in the morning or after. And so our hours were a lot of mornings and evenings.
Mm-hmm.
And our practice now is much closer to, we're kind of more inner city. And so we're closer to businesses. And so most of our patients come over lunch. So that's nice because then our flow is usually at lunch or maybe right after work. And so then we can have I think those are better hours for our family. But that's one thing to consider. And then also close to, like you say that in your letter to me, you want to be close to a high school. So right. I think if you know of a place that you're going to network with and you want to work closely with, then I think proximity to that place would be good, but you also want to make sure that they're not already connected to somebody else.
Right.
So you may be trying to move in on someone else's territory and they're not going to let up. I know in our small town in Colorado, we were the only chiropractors they let into the high school. And so anyone else coming in was not going to take that space.
Right. Since you guys did that, like, how does that conversation go? Did you guys talk to the athletic trainer, the athletic director, both?
It was kind of a process. We had patients that actually worked in the front office of the high school. Mm-hmm. And so those relationships came first, and we would do sports physicals for free. So they would promote that. We would print up flyers. They would keep them at their counter. And so we did that for a couple of years. Once it seemed like those were kind of being taken advantage of by people out of the town, we then started charging for the sports physicals, and we would give a certain amount of that back, donate it back to school, the athletic program.
Yeah. That's good. That's really smart.
So I think the last year we owned that practice, we gave over $2,000 or more to the school athletic program. So they really liked that. And they started having us come in and just do the sports physicals in their building. And it was a great relationship.
That's good. What about paperwork for like getting started, like your intro forms, your revals, all that kind of stuff? Is that going to be through your EHR system, or do you have to go get that from somewhere else, from NCMEC?
Yeah. So I think, and I don't know if NCMIC has that. They might. When we started, we used the paperwork of the doctor that we preceptored under. Okay. And then over time, we would start actually just looking at paperwork of other practices online and seeing what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, what did our patients not like about our paperwork, what did they like, what made the flow easy. So, our paperwork's on our chiropractic website. You guys can go look at it and mold it into what you want. Also, I think JNAP, those kinds of things are going to be online. So you do create that, but I think they have a library of where everyone shares what their exam and paperwork looks like. So you can definitely look at that there.
That's good.
Yeah.
For the EHR stuff, is there like key features that you feel like you need to have, like no matter what, company you pick using?
Yeah, I think for cash practice, I would definitely look at JNAP, which also has the capability to bill. And it's not, I don't think, at 100% yet, but if you did consider going to insurance, you're going to be out in over a year anyway. So I think in that amount of time, it'll get better. So I think JNAP's a good one. The price is right. We use ChiroTouch, and that would be a little more than you need because you don't need the insurance part of it.
Right.
And then we have a chiropractor that works in our office, and I think he uses Google Docs. So I think just finding something that works for you. His is obviously cheaper than anyone else's. Yeah,
I've heard the Google thing is because it's free. So
yeah. So, and I think that you need to pay for Google it's only like $50 a year or something.
Right. Yeah.
To have it HIPAA compliant. But I think, whatever and obviously I think if you use something like that, you really are going to have a lot of you're going to be diligent about keeping your calendar and your accounting in Excel spreadsheets or in the Google Docs
spreadsheet, because you need to keep track of all of those things. So you need to be diligent that you are keeping up with your notes if you're doing them in Google Doc, and that you're putting people in on your calendar and keeping spreadsheets of the money and appointments and all of that stuff.
If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please share it with your friends on Instagram and Facebook. And for those of you who are already subscribers, we really appreciate it. Thanks for the reviews. We love reading those and knowing that you're loving the podcast. If you're looking for more tips and inspiration, be sure to check us out at lifestylepracticebuilders.com or join our business and marketing Facebook group for chiropractors at facebook.com/group/lifestyle practice.